What will the new and improved Atlanta Falcons look like coming out of their bye?
You are Locked On Falcons, your daily Atlanta Falcons podcast. Part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
Welcome back, everyone, to another illustrious episode of the Locked On Falcons podcast, your daily Atlanta Falcons podcast, part of Locked On Sports Atlanta, your team every day. And today's episode is brought to you by Gametime. Download the Gametime app, create an account, and use code LOCKEDONNFL for $20 off your first purchase. So, guys, if you don't know me, I'm your very humble host, Aaron Freeman, a.k.a. Mr. Drew, a.k.a. Sirius Black, a.k.a. Mr. a.k.a. And I've been covering the Atlanta Falcons for a very long time, formerly at FalcFans.com, RIP, still going strong on this illustrious podcast. And I thank each and every one of you that goes strong with me as everydayers that make it your first listen each and every day. And become an everydayer, all you have to do is subscribe or follow for free on YouTube or wherever you listen to podcasts. So today's episode, I am joined by the illustrious Jarvis Davis of Locked On Sports Atlanta. We'll talk about the possible youth movement for the Falcons post-bye. We'll look ahead to the offseason at maybe a under-the-radar position of need. But first, we got to talk about where this team is headed going into the bye week. And Jarvis, we've talked about it on Locked On Sports Atlanta on the various football parties this week. We've talked about it here on Locked On Falcons. You know, everybody's talking about what the Falcons need to fix heading into the bye. But let's move a little bit past that, right? Basically, I want to ask you, whatever the Falcons need to fix, what version of the Atlanta Falcons do you need to see coming out of this bye week? You know, do they just need to get back to where they were a couple of weeks ago when they seemed like they were rolling? You know, is there a new and improved version of the Atlanta Falcons? What does, you know, that look like to you coming out of this bye week when we face the LA Chargers in Atlanta in a couple of weeks?
Being prepared for what these playoff teams are going to bring, as far as, because, you know, a lot of times, man, when the book is out on you, you know, hey, you know, they play back-to-back weeks of teams who can, you know, they play a lot of man coverage. And Kirk Cousins hasn't had a passing touchdown in those games. So maybe we play a little bit more man. Maybe we challenge these wide receivers a little bit more. Yeah, we maybe could do that. And I think that they can combat that by Darnell Mooney getting a little bit healthy, because people are like, why are you throwing about Darnell Mooney? Darnell Mooney can consistently get separation, you know, when guys come down and try to jam him, man, you know, and try to reroute him and everything like that. So my thing is just, and that's on the offensive side. As far as the defense goes, y'all susceptible to screens? Oh, we can run the football on y'all? Oh, y'all a little soft on the edges? Oh, okay. Let's see if we can do this too, or emulate that in some form of fashion to make it work for our particular offense. So that's what I'm looking for, man. Making sure that teams don't continue to do the things that, you know, are your weakness, and, you know, by making necessary adjustments. Like, it can be as simple as just getting healthy, or it can be as simple as, hey, Matthew Judon, we ain't gonna have you starting anymore because we like Lorenzo Carter on first down, you know what I'm saying, at that edge spot, you know, against the run. So I think those are some of the things that, you know, I'm looking for, I'm expecting, because like if you don't correct those things, if you don't fine tune those things, I love what you said on the Atlanta football party earlier. Like, the devil's in the details. If you don't get those things correct, like, it's not really gonna matter who's in there, because like, teams are going to continue to emulate what they feel can beat you, and it can really get on the lands like a snowball effect, so to speak. You know, when you talk about, you know, teams trying to continue to do those things, so they know that, you know, they can have some success doing it.
Yeah, I think that's a great point, Jarvis, because you look at the last couple of weeks and you talk about, you know, maybe there is a book out there for the Atlanta Falcons on, okay, these are the things that they're vulnerable against. And when you face some teams like the Chargers, like the Vikings, like the Commanders, teams that are, you know, at this point in the season, and we'll see how the season bears out, but look like they're headed towards playoff teams. And so, you know, what separates the teams that make the playoffs and the teams that don't make the playoffs. The teams that make the playoffs typically can assert their will in the majority of their games. And so, those teams are the types of teams that are like, okay, well, we look at these weaknesses that the Atlanta Falcons have, and we can exploit those weaknesses. And, I think the opposite is true for the Atlanta Falcons. Can you look at some of those teams and say, okay, we know that, the Chargers are good at this, but hey, they have this vulnerability and we can exploit that or something like that. And I think those are kind of the things that you're kind of looking for this team, for them to make that next step to show, okay, we're not just the best team in a bad division. We're actually a team that's ready and capable to play, playoff caliber football down the stretch. And I can't remember who said, I want to say it was Kay Nellis, but someone basically said, after this Broncos game, that every game from here on out is basically a playoff game for us. And it's sort of a must-win, seasons on the line type of thing. And, can the Falcons come out with that same sense of urgency that they need to? And we've heard them talk a good game about it. That's been something that Kirk Cousins was, talking quite a bit about going into the season, where it's like, we have to do everything in our power to get this thing rolling as quickly as we can. And so now it's like, you got to do everything in your power to keep this thing rolling coming out of the bye week.
Yeah, and I'm glad that Kirk is speaking on that stuff, because I mean, a lot of times when you're searching for answers, like, you're going to be looking towards, you always look towards your leader. You always look towards the guy that, that was brought in to be the grown up, right? Like, you always look to the grown ups when times get hard. Like, oh, mommy, daddy, what's going on? That's what my daughters do when times it gets hard, or they don't really understand what's going on. So I think that a lot of the guys are looking around like, okay, what do we do? And I think that, Kirk has to be the guy to have some answers on the offensive side. And he has to be able to have some answers from a team aspect, as a whole, because he's in a space where he got some, he feels like he has something to prove. I know he has something to prove, because like going back-to-back games without a passing touchdown for the first time ever, that's, yeah, man, we need answers. Like, we need them right now. So I think with him, speaking out and saying the right things, and having that self-awareness, going into the bye, is going to be crucial to them trying to figure out what's going on, what's happening. And once we do that, how do we implement it? Because there's one thing to say it. You can say what's wrong. You can say what the issue is. Like Kay Nellis mentioned, like, hey, Jimmy was screaming in my ear, about the screens and looking out for, but shoot, what you gonna do about it? Like, you got to put action to it. So I think that it's all about action, man. You got to be all about that action, boss.
There you go. Well, I don't think Kirk has to worry too much, despite maybe some fans out there that would like him to, about some young guy coming and taking his job in the immediate future. Maybe down the road, we'll see. But one version of the Atlanta Falcons that could come out of this bye is one that features some more young players. And, we'll pick Jarvis's brain to see sort of which young guys he wants to see a little bit more action of post bye. And we'll get into that as we continue today's Locked On Falcons. This show is sponsored by BetterHelp, and whether you know this month as November or Kirkvember, it's all about gratitude. And someone that often doesn't get thanked enough is ourselves. Sometimes we need to remind ourselves that we are trying our best to make sense of everything that's crazy in this world, and that isn't easy. And positive coping skills I've learned in therapy have helped me understand I can only control what I can control, which I use every single Sunday when I watch the Atlanta Falcons. And while I'm working towards being the best version of myself, I should be more thankful. And perhaps therapy can help you be more thankful for your everyday life. Therapy isn't just for those who've experienced major trauma. So if you're thinking of starting with therapy, give BetterHelp a try. It's entirely online, designed to be convenient, flexible, and suited to your schedule. Just fill out a brief questionnaire and you'll get matched with a licensed therapist and switch therapists at any time for no additional charge. Let the gratitude flow with BetterHelp. Visit BetterHelp.com/lockedon to get 10% off your first month. That's BetterHelp, HELP.com/lockedon. Hello, my friend. It's me from France coming to tell you about Gametime and Gametime's new feature called Gametime Picks. It's making getting tickets to see your favorite Frenchman Zachary Risache, even easier. Game Time Picks filters out the fluff to show you only incroyable deals on great seats, so you don't have to waste time searching through thousands of tickets. What you see is what you get when you toggle the all-in prices in the app, so no hidden fees at checkout. You Americans are constantly getting the hidden fees, but Game Time is taking that away. And I must mention the panoramic seat views to post up in the perfect spot in State Farm Arena to watch my favorite Trae Young, or as we say in my country, Toi Young, to do, how do you say, shoot the lights out, say magnifique, whether you're into basketball, other sports, comedy, music, theater, whatever event is near you. Game Time is taking the guesswork out of buying tickets. Download the Game Time app, create an account, and use code LOCKEDONNFL for $20 off your first purchase. Terms apply. Again, create an account and redeem code LOCKEDONNFL for $20 off. You save so many euros. Download Game Time today. What time is it? Game time. So here with Jarvis Davis of Locked On Sports Atlanta, and one of the biggest changes.
What happened just ain't happened now. Come on.
Yeah, we're just gonna. I don't know what you're talking about, Jarvis. So, yeah, we'll see.
Chris Jackson was magnifique, my friend. Yes, I love it. Continue, sir. My bad.
Yeah, one of the things that we've seen in recent years with the Falcons coming out of their bye week has been that they've gone with a little bit of a youth movement at certain positions, right? We saw it last year where the Falcons kind of made the switch from Richie Grant to DeMarcco Hellams. You saw it the previous year. Troy Anderson started getting more snaps over Michael Walker. Desmond Ridder obviously getting the start at the quarterback spot over Marcus Mariota. And so I asked you, Jarvis, is that something that you want or expect to see this year? And if there is a young player or players that you would like to see get a little bit more run of these final 6 games?
Yeah, man. Got to start with Zach Harrison, because he was able to get some opportunities toward the end of last year, and we saw some promise, right? There was something there. So for me, I hate to say it, like when you think about the 30-plus defensive tackles, in no way, shape, or form I'm throwing shade at Grady Jarrett or David Onyemata. Like when you talk about guys being able to make plays when they're in there, like it makes sense for them to get more plays so they can make more plays, because Zach Harrison has been a guy that's been pretty consistent against the run, being able to engage, get off blocks, and I just haven't seen that a lot in this group throughout this season, and you see the end results of that, or the results of that, thus far. So I feel like Zach is a guy that needs to probably get some more reps, and for me, Ruke Orhorhoro, from the little bit that we've seen of him, I was like, okay, it's something there. So I want to see more. I want to see more, because the more you get those guys in there, get those guys comfortable. I know people don't want to hear this. The less you have to worry about them getting acclimated to potentially being starters next year. You got to get those guys in there, man, because the Falcons' plan obviously was for this draft class to be more so of a developmental type situation, which is so weird to me when you're trying to compete and want to be contenders, just based off of the type of money that you invested in the quarterback spot, your starter, that is. So it will behoove them to make sure they get Zach in there, get him some more reps, and also Ruke Orhorhoro, once he's healthy, get him back in there as well. And then if they can figure out a way for DeMarcco Hellams to kind of get healthy, I would love to see him, because I really appreciate what he brings to the table. Like somebody who's still willing to put their pads in someone's chest and separate them from the ball. Oh my gosh, I love that type of stuff. I love the way Jesse Bates plays. But oh my God, a safety that can come in with and bring something, and that running back or that wide receiver can fill him. Oh man, that is right up my alley, buddy.
Yeah, I agree 100% with that. We haven't seen that much dime from the Falcons, and I can't help but think a lot of that is due to not having someone like DeMarcco Hellams healthy and playing.
Sure.
Another young player, I agree with you wholeheartedly on the D tackle, but another young player I would love to see maybe get a little bit more run is JD Bertrand, right? I know we go back and forth about a pair of linebackers, but I feel like getting JD Bertrand some love just because the linebacker play as a whole for the Falcons has not been great this year, and so it's just kind of like, hey, this young guy, let's see if he can get some reps. No one's saying he should be starting games or whatever, but if you can sprinkle him in for 15, 20 snaps or something like that in certain situations, I think that will be beneficial for his development as well, just because that linebacker position seems to be a little bit in flux in terms of who is right now. Like you look at that group and you're like, how many of these guys are long-term answers at this point, right? Like that's been the whole thing with Troy Anderson. We talk about the potential there for him to be a long-term answer, but as they say, availability is the best ability, and if you can't stay consistently healthy, and he has not been able to do that these last 2 years, then it's hard to put your faith in him moving forward. So getting JD Bertrand, I think some run down the stretch, I think would be beneficial. And him, Zach Harrison, DeMarcco Hellams, we're talking about all these guys that are coming off of injuries or whatever. So that's a key part of it, I think, too, with some of these young guys getting some. Ruke Orhorhoro, you mentioned as well. So it seems like all the young guys that we want to see are a little nicked up at this point in time, but hopefully they can get healthy down the stretch. Anything else in terms of a potential youth movement? Is there, do we look at anything on the offensive side of the ball besides, wishing for a certain young quarterback that some fans are clamoring for? But is there any part of the offense that you feel like, hey, they can maybe shift the lineup, or is it just like it ain't really that broke, don't need to fix it type of thing?
Yeah, I don't see too much tinkering as far as from a personnel standpoint on the offensive side of the football, because outside of week-to-week game plans, like I talked about how, I think it was on the Falcons postcast, how I like how they start the game off like moving Ray around, because I felt like Zach Robinson may have felt it in his spirit that, hey, they're going to play some man coverage and we got to be able to scheme some guys open and get them on the move so they can't get their hands on them, and maybe they'll free them up. And we saw just tinkle a bit of that. So, and I think that's the thing that the offense has to get together. I think that week-to-week game plan, like we talked about earlier, as far as the book being out, like, okay, how can you combat that book? Because you can't go out there and get more people, get a game-breaking wide receiver that you better not come down and try to jam him, because he's going to bust your behind, deep. So I think it's a matter of making sure he has the correct game plan going in the week and knowing what to expect from teams, because like teams have had success playing that man coverage and challenging your wide receivers and trying to throw the timing off with the offense. And we know Kirk he is all about time and all about placement and where that I'm going to throw the ball where you're supposed to be, and you better be there, more than likely it's going to be a turnover if you're not. So yeah, I think that's kind of where I am with the offense, because personnel wise, I just don't think that there needs to be anything, because they're fine.
Yeah, I agree. So we will look beyond these next 6 games and look ahead a little bit to the offseason. Everybody knows that the Falcons needing to upgrade their pass rush is a priority, but we're gonna have Jarvis go outside of that comfort zone and talk about maybe another area of the Falcons roster. Well, everybody knows except for maybe the people in the building, but everybody outside the building knows, Jarvis, that they need to upgrade their pass rush. But we'll go outside that area to see, if there's another spot on this Falcons roster that needs to be priority to fix this offseason. We'll break that down to wrap up today's Locked On Falcons. Now, with the seasons changing, I'm already dreaming of that warm weather getaway a few months from now down in Mobile for the Senior Bowl. And I love using points for my travel and looking for ways to earn more when booking my next flight. And the hack I found is Bilt, who are going to let you earn points on rent payments and redeem them towards flights, hotels, and so much more. There's no cost to join Bilt. And as a member, you'll earn valuable points on rent, on your everyday spending. Bilt points can be transferred to your favorite hotels and airlines, and even the ones you haven't heard of. There are over 500 airlines and 700,000 hotels and properties around the world you can redeem your Bilt points towards. Points can be redeemed towards a future rent payment and unique experiences that only Bilt members can access. So if you're not earning points on your rent, my question is why not? Start earning points on your rent you're already paying by going to joinbilt.com/lockedonnfl. That's JOINBILT.com/lockedonnfl to make sure you use our URL so that they know we sent you at joinbilt.com/lockedonnfl to start earning points with your rent payments today. So, Jarvis, the next 2 episodes I plan on doing here on Locked On Falcons over the weekend, because we won't be talking about a Falcons game during this bye week, is breaking down the roster and looking ahead to ways that they can improve that roster this coming offseason. But, Jarvis, I asked, besides the pass rush, because we know you've been pretty much anytime you come on this podcast and fairly
leading the charge, Free.
Leading it. You're vouching for pass rush. I know we will spend so much time this offseason talking about the pass rush. So it's just like I was telling people the other day who were talking about it. It's like, yeah, we're going to spend so much over the next 6 months talking about pass rushers that I don't feel the need to do a deep dive at this point in time. But, going beyond the pass rush, is there an other area of this roster that you feel like is a problem area that maybe flying under the radar because so much of the focus is on, hey, we got to fix this pass rush this offseason? Is there another area that you're looking at that you feel like the Falcons could potentially upgrade this offseason as well?
Man, how about this? I'm going to go kind of a weird science on you. Let's combine Caden Ellis's hand game and as far as being able to be a guy that you can send up that middle and maybe beat that guard or beat that center off a block on a particular twist or stunt type blitz. And also, let me get the downhill type, play from Mr. Landman. Please forgive me, Landman. You're my dog. That downhillness, that 2-down linebacker type thing. And then let's bring in Troy Anderson's speed. It's the speed, man. Like, they bring that in. Throw all those guys together. Maybe second round guy, and just give me a stand-up linebacker that's going to be able to bring all of those elements. They're out there. They still exist. And I think that needs to be I'm talking about a guy with instincts, man, and be able to diagnose plays and just smell out all the stuff. Like, I'm talking about a Devin White type guy when he first came into with the Tampa Bay Buccaneers, or Levante David. We get a chance to see linebackers like that. We just haven't been able to experience it in quite some time. Deion Jones, when he first came in the league before he got fat and habit, so that's what I'm talking about. I'm looking forward to them not only upgrading the pass rush, because we know what that is. We know what that is. Lord, we know what that is. But can you, on that next level, can you bring me a game-changing type guy? Because we know people, aren't going to really draft him in the first round. You know what I'm saying? Because, unless he's just a whole out-of-worldly type guy, right? And he can rush the passer. But if you can get me a stand-up linebacker that can just hold down that middle for the next 8 to 10 years, man, I'm talking about that will take this defense to another level, along with upgrading the pass rush.
Well, it's interesting that you mentioned that player, Jarvis, because as you were describing that player, there's a there's a player that maybe a little bit up the road that may resemble that type of player. Could you be looking at, say, I know you watch more Georgia football than I do, right? But a guy by the name of Jaylen Walker seems to kind of check all those boxes. So I'm just curious to pick your brain on that guy.
Oh my gosh, man. Oh, Jaylen Walker would be an amazing, the quintessential. I feel like he's gonna make his money as an outside linebacker edge guy, but you see some potential there from him being a stand-up guy too. So he would. I feel like I described him. Like, I'm glad you brought him up, because Jaylen Walker is one of those guys that can be that game-changing player for you. And you can move him around, because, Lord knows, I'm not saying he's Micah Parsons level type guy, but he's a guy that you can have that just from how he's constructed with all of the skills and assets that he has, you can kind of form him or mold him into your defense like Dallas does with Michael Parsons, because they move him all around, line up over the guard, whatever, stand up linebacker in the middle, line up on the outside, on the edge, on a tackle. Like, I think he's that type of guy. He just has that skill set, and man, and that will satisfy all of the Georgia fans who've been clamoring for the Falcons to draft a really good one, and not a Keem Dent, no shade, Keem, you know what I'm saying? You were a really good player, bro.
Catching strays a decade later, like, what did I do?
I know, man. I'm up here throwing. Boy, you got me out here sniping folks, dog. Like, I don't mean to do no stuff like that, man. I don't mean no harm, man. But I'm just saying, like, this is the type of guy, because hey, man, like, Jaylen Carter was right there. Like, how would Jaylen Carter be in this defense right now? Wouldn't even be talking about, oh man, they're gonna have to cut Grady, but he ain't gonna live up to the $20 million cap hit next year. You wouldn't even be talking about him. We were talking about 88. We were talking about 88 or 98, whatever number you want, brother. You can have it. Like, it don't matter. Because like those are the type of things that how. As a general, I always said that general managers have to think for the now and in the future. Coaches are guys that, man, I need players in here that can get now. Like, it's very rare that you hear coaches going out there when the draft rolls around, like, oh man, yeah, we want to get some guys that gonna be able to, be effective 2-3 years down the road. That don't even sound right? But general managers, yeah, they have to kind of toe that line between getting some guys in here that can do something for you now and future. And that can be, if that can be the same player, now and in the future, shoot, man, you got a guy that's doing his job. So I think that guys with that type of talent, coming from Georgia, if Terry Fontenot was to dip his little toe in that pool, man, and he'll be available late first round, I promise you he will. He'll be there. And you can kind of solve a couple of issues in one. Like, if you can get that 2-for-1, man, stand-up linebacker and guy who can rush the pass on third down too, he can help out in that area. Oh man, you talking about, that's how you start. That's when you're doing a good doggone job, because you're fixing multiple issues with one shot.
There you go. Well, guys, that's going to do it. We'll talk more about this Falcons roster and things to look forward to potentially in this offseason as they potentially build off of what they've already established. Should probably major revamp of some defensive positions potentially this offseason, and maybe that includes drafting a couple of Georgia guys like Jaylen Walker and others.
Before we go, Free?
Sure.
What do you think about upgrading that strong safety spot?
With I'm assuming we're talking about the Justin Simmons spot, not the Jesse Bates spot, right?
Yeah, no. Come on, man. Yeah. That would be blasphemy.
I had to check, Jarvis. You might have dipped back into early 2023 Jarvis for a second there.
Yeah, like, don't remind me. Please don't do that. I have admitted my faults.
Okay.
Don't do me like that, bro.
Okay.
I'm even calling the man Jordan. You don't even call him Jordan no more.
Yeah.
Unless you're doing it on your show. You know what I'm saying?
I just needed to confirm that we were talking about the same thing. Yeah, I think that's a spot that I would love. I was telling somebody the other day, like, again, we're talking about the idealized version of that player, but sure, with the way that the Falcons play defense, with that guy having a lot of responsibilities, where you see that guy playing deep, you see that guy covering slot, in the slot. You need that guy to be that thumper that you're talking about that DeMarcco Hellams brings in the run game. If you can find a guy that can check all three of those boxes, I would love to see that player playing next to Jesse Bates that can really complement his skill set in a lot of ways.
Yeah, just plug and play guys, man. Like, overall, get some guys in here that there's no question to whether or not he's going to start. Man, you get Jaylen Walker in here? Oh, he starting. It don't matter where he's starting. He's starting. That's the type of players they need to bring on the defense side of football, and not getting guys with wear and tear and miles and long high mileage guys and all that stuff, man. and hoping and praying that they're gonna give you something of what they used to be. And so for me, man, that's overall, whosoever, if I, how the old school folks say, whosoever y'all bring in, make sure there's no question as to whether or not they're going to start year one.
There you go.
Because that's going to answer a lot of questions for you, man.
Yeah, I think we'll see how the rest of the season plays out, but I do feel like the Falcons currently are on a path where you're going to see a lot of turnover, especially on that defensive side of the ball, and a lot of current guys that are not getting a lot of playing time now, potentially starting, as well as some new faces coming in, and you'll probably see a little bit of a youth movement on that side of the ball, rather than what you're seeing this year, where they've been rolling with a lot of veterans at this point. So we'll see what's what, and we'll break it down on future episodes of Locked On Falcons. Of course, next week we'll get you guys geared up for that upcoming matchup against the LA Chargers. Make sure you continue to make Locked On Falcons your first listen. Check us out on YouTube or wherever you listen to podcasts, as well as check out Locked On NFL for your second listen to get you guys geared up for this weekend's action. With the Falcons off, you guys have a stress-free Sunday. And Locked On NFL is going to let you guys know, where are the best games and best matchups to check out. 2 shows daily, all on YouTube as well as wherever you get your podcasts. It's all part of Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.